Welcome to this installment of Clarifying Tax Situations with attorney and CPA David W. Crossing.
What happens where there has been an on-the-record admission of tax fraud that occurs during a divorce? It's very important to understand that if there's been an on-the-record admission of tax fraud during a divorce, that potentially there could be a pin out of a grenade here. To give you an example of how this can blow up on you, I'll go through an example case. This is U.S. versus Hoover, 83 Aftr 2nd, 99-2214. Hoover and his wife began a highly contested divorce proceeding in 1989. As a result of the divorce, the wife was granted certain assets, including the couple's farm. In the process of the wife securing these assets, Hoover's tax and dairy records, the husband's, were subpoenaed and ultimately resulted in a federal criminal tax investigation being opened. The dairy farmer, the husband, was eventually convicted for filing false tax returns as a result. On appeal, the appeals court confirmed that the husband, dairy farmer, acted willfully, where he admitted during divorce proceedings that he had substantially unreported business income. He did this on the open record, that's how it was discovered. That he didn't file tax returns. In addition, while he was being investigated, he went so far as asking RBLOCK, who was his return preparer that had prepared draft returns of returns that he hadn't filed yet, to not present these draft returns to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division during the investigation. He had gone a step further and falsely stated on a college financial aid application that he had no income whatsoever, where he had in reality earned over $100,000 of unreported income that year, and he also told them he only had $13 in assets. During the investigation, it was also discovered that Hoover had hid money from the IRS and his wife by putting property and bank accounts in the names of other people, including his sons, via joint accounts. He had instructed customers of the dairy to write checks out to his sons, but in reality kept all the funds for himself, to hide the funds from the IRS and from his wife. He admitted during a deposition in his divorce that his tax returns were not truthful and that he had earned substantial unreported income from his dairy business. This is how the IRS started learning that he had committed tax fraud in the first place. Hoover attempted to argue in his appeal that his true motivation for hiding income and assets involved his ex-wife, and he did not willfully intend to commit income tax evasion. These arguments were found to be not persuasive given the tax savings windfall he had enjoyed at the expense of the government. So the reason I went through this case was to give you an illustration how any type of admission of tax fraud on public records surrounding a divorce can be discovered by the IRS, and then a criminal investigation for tax fraud ensue at a later date. Here, Hoover had admitted on the record, with a court reporter typing down everything he said, that he had committed tax fraud. He went through his motivations for committing tax fraud. He thought he was only addressing the divorce court, but subsequently the IRS came across this information. They're known to troll the public records surrounding a divorce, looking for just this type of information. So, an on-the-record admission of tax fraud, in my opinion, the fuse is lit, and we're going to get into what happens as far as a judge is concerned if a judge learns tax fraud has taken place in a divorce later on in this series.